Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to this episode of Closet Chats. I have with me in my teeny tiny closet a very special person. Please say hi.
Hi everybody.
And introduce yourself. Tell them what you do. Let them know how awesome you are.
So I feel like you've put me on the spot here. But anyway, hi everybody. I am Lweendo Hangala. I'm a lawyer. I like to do things that everybody else likes to do, like fitness things. I'm a mother, sister, friend, aunt, the usual accolades that everybody likes to give themselves.
Today we're talking about single moms, and the reason why Lweendo is here is because I want to pry just a little bit and kind of understand things from her perspective. I feel like we judge people based off of ignorance because you don't understand what the other person is going through. So let's get started. The first thing I want to know is how you became a single mom.
Yeesh. How did I become a single mom? Well, I met this guy. We had a thing. I'll be very brief about it. I met this guy, we had a thing, I got pregnant, and the thing ended, and that was that. This was like 2013 when I got pregnant. Well, it was end of December 2012 into 2013. There's a guy I've been dating, I had been seeing for a little bit, and I got knocked up, I suppose it was an issue of we're not very careful. And then that's when my son happened. It's 4 now, and it's been 4 years of single motherhood. And even for much of the pregnancy, I was by myself. So I suppose it started from there, because I think people think that motherhood is just after you give birth, but there's a lot of things that people go through even when you're pregnant. And there's the whole shaming, like, oh my God, you're pregnant and you're not married. Oh my God, like, how could you do such a thing? Yeah. And so because of that, it's always nice to have a good support system around you, even during the pregnancy period. So that when you're going through these things, there's people that you can talk to and basically just go through them, those things with. So so it started with the pregnancy, and I suppose at that point it's a situation whereby it's visible for everybody to see. And I think the first thing that they look at is they'll look at your hands, as most people do, and they'll be like, oh, okay, so where's your ring? It will be the first question. And if they say, oh no, I'm not married, I'm going to be a single mother, and even their looks would change sometimes, because you'll be like, oh, okay, so you did that thing, and you had got pregnant outside wedlock and all that, and so it starts from then. That's when most of the shaming starts, when you're pregnant, because it's visible for everybody to see, and that's when the judgment starts.
Like, do people actually say something to you, or do they just give you looks and their body language changes, or you hear from someone that someone said something?
Well, you hear from someone that someone said something, of course, and then there are those...
So they're not bold enough to say
no,
it to
they're
your
not bold
face,
enough to say
but
it to your face.
They're bold enough to say it behind your back.
Absolutely.
Cowards.
Absolutely. And then also you do have your older relatives who will come and express what a disappointment you are to the family, because you've done this thing, and oh my God, how could you go through these things, these motions, and I think, and I always tell people, and not that I'm encouraging anybody to get pregnant outside wedlock or anything, I'm like, it's only those, because you've got the first trimester, and in the first trimester, well, everybody says don't tell anybody, because that's the most sensitive period of the pregnancy, because anything can happen. And after you get past the first trimester, things start to go a bit smoother. And so, like, after you reach the second trimester, and going on up until you give birth, I feel like it's only those 6 months that are the most difficult, because when the baby comes, it's like everybody forgets suddenly what a disappointment you are, because they're so happy to see this cute little bundle of joy that they forget,
What was your mental process preparing to be a mom?
I'll be very honest, it was very, very difficult, and I will say, like, at the time, I was actually still at Seali, and I always feel like perhaps I didn't do so well, like I could have done better, but then I feel like I had a lot on my plate going on, trying to process everything and digest everything that had happened, that it affected me in ways that I actually didn't think it did. I thought, because you tell yourself, oh, a lot of people do this, I'll be fine, a lot of people do this, we have single mothers world over, but I don't think anything prepares you for for the, like I said, because even in the pregnancy itself, there's a lot that happens. There's a lot that can go wrong. There's a lot that happens. Like, you're an emotional wreck. Just imagine how emotional you get when you're on your period, for example, or when you're ovulating. Now imagine having those emotions for like 9 months. Every single day. You don't know what mood you wake up in. You know, sometimes you just burst out crying just for no reason, and you're like, oh my God, I'm doing this alone. But then I think, and I know you said it, like, you know, outside my circle, outside my family. I think what happened, I started to get a grip when I moved back into my parents' house. Because at this stage I was living by myself, you know, trying to do that whole independent woman thing, growing up and all that. But then when I found out I was pregnant after my ZIALI exams, I moved back into my parents' house. So what happened at that stage is that my dad became my rock. You know, he was just talking me through everything, well, not really preparing me, because of course he's a man, so you know, but he provided such great emotional support that the last 2 months of my pregnancy, I felt like everything was going to be okay. You know, I started feeling like everything was going to be okay. We sort of laid out plans. He was very excited, of course, being you know, grandfather, but worried at the same time. And I must just say, like, you know, we underrate the importance of a good support system and a good circle. And it's only because of that I was able to process and put things into place, and that, you know, just make a plan to say, okay, fine, for the next 21 years or so, this is going to be your life. You're going to have to do things by yourself, whether it's going for, because it was issues of going for antenatal, you know, going for the checkups and so on and so forth. I was already by myself at that point. So I started to prepare to say, okay, this is going to be the rest of your life. You're going to do diaper changes by yourself. You're going to do the midnight waking up calls by yourself. So you need to prepare yourself. And, you know, just like literally just woke up one day and said, okay, you know what, grow up. It has happened.
Do you still deal with like judgment?
I think at this point, people have just seen what an amazing mother I am, if I do say so myself. Yeah. so and how we're really, like, you know, we are getting by, the two of us, and even though in this context I use the two of us very loosely, because like I say, there's like a broader support system from my friends, from my family, and perhaps that's how we are getting by, and maybe that's how we're not dealing with judgment. The issue is, where do you get off judging me or looking at me a certain way when you don't know me and you don't know my story? But I did find a way to deal with that, and I know it's very cliche, but I'm like, I don't know you, you don't pay my bills, you don't pay for my son's school fees, you don't pay for his food, so I'm not going to let what you say or the way you look at me affect me or have this negative impact on me, because really at the end of the day, you don't know me, you don't know what we've been through. So, you know, we just take it today as it comes and try to be as positive as possible.
And I think when you want to judge someone, it's important for you to reverse roles and attempt to know someone's life from their side before you on the outside just, you know, looks in and says things how you think they should be. Because at the end of the day, how you are raised or whatever might not be the ideal way that someone else would raise their child or have their children. And whatever the case, it's just not your place. I think it's your place to learn, to listen. You can be curious, but be curious without being... I don't want to say a bad word. Be curious without being disrespectful.
Absolutely, and I agree with you, because they always say, like, again, it's a cliche, like, you know, walk a mile in my shoes and see if you can actually do what I do. But it's true, because, you know, I am a single mother. That's a fact. There's nothing that will change that. And there's a lot of things that I do for my child that I'm not putting myself on a pedestal compared to mothers that have, like, you know, the conventional, they're raising their children the conventional way. But I just wonder, like, if we had to reverse roles, would you be able to do what I do, you know, without that support that you have in terms of having, like, a partner by your side to go through the whole raising of a child with?
I think people take it for granted.
They really do take it for granted, I think. And
they take it for granted, and you don't give people raising children on their own enough credit. I think it's important to just, if you don't have anything nice to say, just like, if you didn't have your support system, do you think that all this, like, negativity and the judgment and the shaming, like, how do you think it would have shaped you?
Wow. I'm glad I haven't had to find out, to be honest, because I can't even begin to imagine. I mean, truth be told, we all get affected one way or the other by society's perception of us, or you hear a rumor about you and you're like, oh, is that what people think about me? You know, and for sometimes, even for me personally, I can tell you today, like I'll hear something about me and I'll be like bummed out for about an hour or two, and you know, it will affect me negatively. And I suppose if I didn't have the support system and that emotional support that I needed to get through that, I would have possibly had like postpartum depression, or just been depressed and resented my child, because it does happen.
Yeah, it does.
You know, the reality is that it does happen where women end up resenting their children because of the effect that they've had on them, and things like that. So I would have probably been one of those that was like reclusive, withdrawn, because I'm scared of what people are saying, or because I just do not want to hear what people are saying about me. And I'll give you an example. I remember when I had him, the day I gave birth. I suppose because of the circumstances of his birth, social media and bullying. Oh my goodness.
Oh God.
So there were a few tweets that, you know, with subtweets, as people like to call them, that I saw on Twitter. And I remember a friend of mine came up to me, like when she came to see Joe, she's like, you know, I really don't know how you've taken all of it, because if I go to social media, there is a lot of people saying a lot of crap about you, you know. And I'm like, you know what, I'm not fazed, because they don't know me from Adam, really. So who are they to talk about me and talk about my circumstances or where I am today, when they don't know me, they don't know my story. So, you know, I just brush it off my shoulders. But I can't imagine if I didn't have the support system and I was seeing those comments on Twitter, I don't even want to think about where I'd be today, because people commit suicide, you know, because of negativity and all that.
And I don't think people think before they tweet.
No, they really
like, you don't think about the consequences of your words and your actions. I will think about something I want to say and how it might affect the next person. Am I commenting on, you know, people bullying one person? Am I saying something that might seem positive but is actually negative, and it's very passive on my end? You know, because sometimes we want to say something and in your head it sounds fine. It sounds really fine, but it comes off as passive.
And just to add to what you were saying about being passive, and you know, you think you're being passive, but yet it's very negative. I think what people don't take into account is that these comments that we make, these harsh comments that we make, affect people's psychology. And I think we don't care about people's mental state. I don't know, maybe we're not there yet.
No,
we're about what the outside, right? Oh, Lweendo is smiling, she's laughing, so she must be okay with me saying this, you know, she's happy. But you don't know how mentally I have been affected by what you have said. And I think that's why people just say, because a lot of reckless stuff was said, and that's why my friend approached me to say, okay, but how are you dealing with all this? Like, how is it that you're managing? And I just like, meh, you know. It is what it is. People are open to their opinions. You know, they may not always be the greatest opinions, but you know, it is what it is.
Everybody has something
Everybody
to say
has
about
something to
something.
say.
Your response to that kind of stuff online being said about you was to just not be online?
Well, I was online. I just didn't let it faze me. You know, I was focusing. I had a newborn baby. I was focusing on. Do you know how difficult it is to try to breastfeed in the first week? You know,
no,
like, is there...
I actually don't know.
Oh, right.
I think I just, like, learned about this when my close friend had a child. And I've been, like, somehow I've been into watching people on YouTube who have babies. Because I just want to understand, like, a little bit more. Because now it's, like, closer to home. Yeah. So, like... I don't know. I didn't even know that some people don't produce breast milk, others can't. Like, the baby won't latch on.
Yeah, you know.
It's just like...
There was just a lot going on. I mean, you're trying to get your baby to latch on. You're trying to produce enough breast milk. You've got pressure from I remember my mother was telling me, no, you don't have enough milk. He's not getting full. You know, we might need to start formula, but I do want him to get you some formula. So there's already a lot going on outside social media.
Yeah.
I really didn't care what was going on social media.
feel you.
Yeah, because I'm like,
totally
you know,
feel
I'm
you.
focusing on getting the diaper changes right, and then because there's this generational gap, right? You've got our parents who used like nappies, like cloth nappies, and then we've got the Pampers diapers,
Yeah.
which you can put on for like up to 12 hours and it's still dry, but you're being put under pressure because they think it's like a cloth nappy,
Yeah.
and that no, he'll get diaper rash and all that.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, so there was too much going on for me to just care about what people were saying, and so, you know.
With everything that was going on with you, did you think about dating? Like at what point did you think about dating?
Again, it was being practical, right? It was the milestone. So I had the baby. The first 6 months, I was literally a stay-at-home mom. I wasn't working at the time, so I was with my child all the time, right? And then, and it's very important I give you this context because
Yeah.
I don't want you to make it to feel like maybe I was a bit off-puttish about dating. It just wasn't a paramount need for me, and I suppose for a very long time I had other things to do in my life that I just felt that I didn't have time for dating, because dating is very taxing. It's a lot of work, and you have to put in the work. And so I go back. So first 6 months I was a stay-at-home mom. I was focusing on trying to raise him and everything. And the next 6 months, when he turned a year old, I got a new job, so I was focusing on that, trying to get the new job and everything. The next 6 months after that, I was trying to finish my Ziali and so on and so forth. And then after I finished my Ziali, I really didn't have an excuse,
Yeah.
because I passed the bar, and you're like, okay, now what's your excuse? So yeah, I passed the bar, and then I did think about it, and I dated this guy. For a little while. We started getting to know each other, and of course it was a bit hard because it was about finding balance. And I always say, like, for me, my time is one of the most precious things ever. I don't know about how other people feel, but it's the one thing that you can't get back.
Yeah, you can't
right?
get the time back.
And the older you get, adulting they call it, your Monday to Friday doesn't belong to you. It belongs to your employer. So all you really have are those 48 hours at the weekend. So it was about splitting it between my son, my family, my friends, and at the time, my boyfriend. And finding balance. Oh my God. Finding balance when you're juggling things is so difficult, because and he was working out of town, and I think that also put a strain on things a little bit, because obviously you have to, yes, phone calls, you can phone each other and everything, but you have to have that connection, you know,
Yeah,
the physical presence and
Yeah.
the physical interactions. They're very important and very vital to any relationship. So it was a bit difficult, I'll be honest, because I think it was a distance thing, the finding balance thing. I traveled as and when I could, but then obviously it was a bit of a challenge. He traveled as and when he could, but then also he had challenges with that. And yeah, so it didn't work out. We broke up, and then after that I just went on a non-dating tip, because I just wanted to focus on other things, you know.
A lot of times in people's minds, I've seen people ask, like, why are you even dating? Shouldn't you be concentrating on your child?
Oh my God, it's not even the dating. I'm not even allowed to go to the club apparently because I've got a child. Like, okay.
Why are you
Miss
dating?
me.
You shouldn't have a child. You're probably like not taking care of your child. You're being a bad parent.
Giving a bad.
And-
But you know what? You know, and I always say this, like, you need that balance. You need that time out, because it can drive you crazy, especially if you're a single parent. And bless, I love my child, but you know, sometimes even I feel like I need space from him, because I just want 5 minutes of me time. And when we're home together, if I'm home, I cannot get a second to myself. And that's fine, because he'll come in every 2 minutes, even if I'm in my room, he'll come in every 2 minutes, and he'll want this, he'll want that. If we're watching a cartoon together, he will still, you know, interrupt every 2 minutes, say, oh, look, no, but you're not watching. You know, he's at that age. So it's very, very important. And I think it's very important for your state of mind as well, to always get this me time. And if you like going to the club, I don't think there's any harm in going to the club once in a month. If you want to date, go ahead and date. You know, I suppose the only challenge with dating as a mother even as a parent, I think even men have the same issue. Although I think it's easier for men for some reason. I don't think they get judged as harshly. You should talk to a single dad.
I need to find a single dad who actually talk to me.
I don't think they're judged as harshly as women for being single parents.
No, they're not.
Because when you're trying to date as a parent, it's not just about you, right? You need to assess, is this person going to fit into, how is it going to fit in with my son? How is it going to fit into our lives? Is he the right decision for both of us? He may be the right person for me, but what about my child?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that go into contemplation. So if you want to date, I mean, there's no harm in going out there and going on a few dates, because one of my colleagues always says, like, he will grow up and move out of the house, and then what happens? Is that when you're going to start dating? When you're well into your 50s or 60s? Is that when you say, oh, let me start dating now?
Yeah.
No, and there will come a point when he will fly the coop, and that's when you realize that, oh, actually, I have been dating, I have a partner here, so I'm all good.
And I just feel like if you want companionship, because there are certain people that want to be with someone, like, it's fine for you to seek out that companionship as long as it doesn't bring any sort of like mental, physical harm to your child.
Absolutely.
Because most of the time, I mean, there are people that don't want to have children, and you can't date someone like that because you have a child already. They might be like the perfect guy on paper and in real life, but like the moment someone doesn't want to have anything to do with your child, that's like a red flag for me, even though I don't have a child.
No, but it only
it's still
follows
a red flag.
Like, you can't be selfish.
Yeah.
You can't be selfish with your decisions. And that's why I'm saying, like, the person may be good for you, but you need to take it a step further to say, are they going to be good for my child? Will they have a good relationship? Will everything be okay? Because if it's not, then the person, unfortunately, no matter how perfect they seem, will have to go.
Yeah.
Because the paramount importance needs to be your child. And people will say, no, you're being picky, but you're
important
mother.
to be picky.
It's very important to be picky. Like, they think that you can't be picky because, oh my God, you're a single mother, you're damaged goods.
Don't even start me on that. Don't start me on that. Don't start me on that one, because I literally I'm not like a violent person, but there are times when I want to choke someone when I hear those words coming out of their mouth, and sometimes it comes from people with children themselves.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I can't be with someone that's got a child. She's like, nah, that's like not for me. I need someone who doesn't have a child. Like, how are you judging someone because they have a child? Judge them based off of them as a person. And for me, I would probably judge a person who has a child with how they treat their child, because that would factor in the decision of me wanting to date them or not. If someone dates their child like crap, you don't want to date someone like that.
No,
that's their seed. That child came from their womb, and they treat their child horribly, and you're like, oh no, it's fine, doesn't like his child, but he'll like our child. No, he's not good. He's not.
Going to.
You can tell so much about someone with how they treat their child. And that's one thing that I've learned from my friends. I've learned that lesson from my friends.
Okay, it's true. It's really true, because like you said, you can't say no, I don't want to have kids, but then start dating someone with kids. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? And that's fine if that's your thing. If you don't want to date someone with kids, that's your thing. That's fine. We respect that. But just don't go out there saying, oh, like making it seem like it's a bad thing. Like, oh my God, I would never. Like, how are you doing it? Like,
on a moral compass, I don't think anyone has the right to judge another person based off of decisions that they A, have happened in the past, B, they can't control, and C, don't have a negative effect on that person's life per se. It's not like murder, it's not rape, so I don't think you can judge someone based off of the fact that they had a child. Like,
I feel like giving you a high five right now.
High five. Like, how do you introduce the person that you're dating to your child?
I've done it twice actually. And well, obviously for me, my child is still very young, right? So it's only now that his mind is a bit more curious, like, who's that person? I don't know them. What are they doing here? and all that. But the first time that I did it, we went out for lunch, you know. He was playing, he was having fun, and I'm like, oh, this is this person, say hello. Obviously at the time I couldn't like string two sentences together, but you know, I actually don't know. I struggle with that because I feel like you want to protect them because you don't want to bring in somebody who will leave an impression. I mean, I find it very difficult to do it like with heartbreak and a breakup or having to move on from a person. I can't imagine what he would go through as a child, especially if he became attached to this person. So I sometimes want to take the stance to say like, you know what, you're only going to meet him if you're here forever. But then again, you're like, you have to strike the balance.
What if you're here forever and then when you meet him you don't get along?
You see, so it's a tricky one, I'll be honest, and I haven't had to deal with it yet because like I said, he's still very young, so I don't think he even understands the concept of dating, although I think he does.
Children are just like way beyond their years.
Yeah, no, they really are.
They're too much for me.
Yeah. So if I did it, it would be in a comfortable environment for him because it's his safety and you know that I'm concerned about, and I think, and that's why it's important. The way we treat each other as grown-ups will tell the children how to treat you as well. If he can see that this person, I don't know, children have like this sixth sense, eh? Because there are times when Joe will look at a person, and I say this in relation to like nannies. There's a woman that we hired earlier this year, and they just didn't get on. He didn't like her. I mean, she was perfect, she was brilliant, she was good with the housework, but they just didn't get on. And just one day she just packed up and left. And they have this intuition. And people say it's a myth or whatever, but they can see your heart or something, or like something like that. If a baby cries,
but then it means you're a bad person.
Like you know, your heart is dark. Well, I don't know. I think there is some truth to that because as innocent and as pure as they are, there's no reason for them to reject love and affection from someone. So I think it's very telling how we interact with each other, and it would be very important that this person treats me right. You know, if that person treats me right, cares for me, shows me they care for me, it would be easier for my son to open up to them and warm up to them without them having to, of course, bribe him with like toys and presents and all that.
You have to be nice to.
But it is a tricky one.
Without toys.
It is a tricky one, and if anybody out there has any tips, you know, just
when to introduce your partner to your child. Because as much as it is about your child and protecting your child, you need to save some for yourself and consider your life not just now but also in the future.
And I think as single moms or single parents, I think we get so focused on protecting the children or protecting the child, we forget that we also need to look after ourselves. I'll give you, there's a time we went through something quite traumatizing earlier this year. His nanny passed away, and this is a woman that we'd had for like since he was like a year old, but then she fell ill, and then unfortunately, you know, she died. And he was at the stage where, of course, he could ask questions, and he noticed that she was missing, and you know, and he knew that she was sick, and you know, he would say all these things, even in his prayers, he would pray for her, and so on and so forth. So it was quite a change in our lives, and we had to readjust and balance and find a new person, and so on and so forth. So it was, you know, and I was so focused on trying to find somebody for him. Even at work, I would go home at lunch every time. I'd leave the office at 5 o'clock on the dot because, you know, I'm trying to get home to make sure that he's okay, that he's eaten, because he's adjusting to a new person. And my boss just asked me one day, she's like, you know, are you okay? Are you taking care of yourself? Is everything okay? Because I stopped eating healthy because I didn't have the time to eat healthy. I wasn't exercising anymore. Like, I just wasn't doing things for me anymore because I was just so focused on looking after him. But then we forget that, you know, in order to look after the child properly, you need to set aside some time for yourself. You need to do the things that will revitalize you and put you in a certain frame of mind that you're able to do the parenting properly.
We're talking about like sex and stuff. Like, I want to pry. Because I'm nosy like that. I should like put a little nose on the screen here somewhere. Like, what's that like? Like, the first time you have sex after having a child? Like, I'm just curious.
In
like,
terms of what
like,
exactly?
does it feel different? Like, are you conscious? Or is it just like a normal progression of things and you just don't think about it?
You know, every time that you meet somebody new, there's a lot of barriers that you need to go through that you've already broken down with the last person, then it didn't work out or whatever, and then, you know. So I was conscious about my body more than anything, because obviously it went through some transformations, it changed. My stomach wasn't what it used to be. I had stretch marks. I had cellulite. So that's what I was conscious about. To say, oh my God, what if he sees my stretch marks and then he just thinks I'm fat? It's very. I know it's very silly, but these are things that people go through, and so that's what I was conscious about more than anything. Yeah. If I'm being honest, because I mean, down there, I'm like, you know.
Everything works.
Everything works.
Because you're raising a son. Like, what's that like for you? Especially considering what our African culture is based on when it comes to, like, men and women and what our role in society is. Like, what's that like for you?
So you see, I believe in... I don't know. I won't say that I'm a feminist or, you know, because I know there's a lot of extremes to that. But I feel like I believe in equity. Not equal, because we're not equal. It goes without saying. You know, there's things that, you know, I can do that a man can't do, and vice versa. So, but I believe in equity. Like, you know, at least equal fairness, basically. You know, if my nephew and niece are visiting, both of them will be in the kitchen cleaning up the dishes. To give the most basic example, and that's how I'm trying to raise my child. And sometimes I look on Twitter, and again, it's about unlearning things. I go into my timeline, and there's this huge debate on, say, I won't even get into that because I know it will spark something in you, but like the issue of raping your partner, you know. And then I see some views from men, and I'm like, oh my God, they've got sons. And those are the views that they're posting. And they've got sons that they're raising. And they will raise their sons believing that, you know, it's okay to do such things. I don't subscribe to that. I feel like, first of all, you're dealing with a blank canvas. You've got the opportunity to rewrite a lot of things. You're dealing with a blank canvas. And it's very important to ensure that you're painting the right picture. And you need to remember that because you're dealing with a blank canvas, you've actually still got the opportunity to erase. You know, to just take it out and black it out and start all over again. Especially in the first, say, 10 years of their lives, because I think that those are the most like formative years and they're learning things. I remember there's a day that he came home, and you know, these things are everywhere, right? Because in as much as at home you're trying to instill certain principles in him as a boy, to say this is your role as a man. You know, you are the man of the house, but that doesn't mean that you own things, basically. No. Or just because you're a boy doesn't mean that you can't like pink, for example. And he came home, and he was talking about how pink is for girls. It's small little things like that we need to try and avoid, and that I'm trying to avoid, you know, where you've got this construct to say this is what it is, this is what it isn't, and anything in the middle doesn't go. So I'm really just trying as a single mother to ensure that the son that I'm bringing up won't be, you know, if somebody says men are trash, he will come up and say, okay, yes, you're right, but, you know, I feel like if we did XYZ, we could all... I'm just trying to raise him up right, to be honest. You know, just trying to... I don't think
it's easy for anyone to raise a child, but it's really important what you put in the child, which is a reflection of what's in you. Yes,
because it's an empty... And of course, there's certain things about me that I'm just like, ooh, no, can't have him doing that, you know. But then you're dealing with an empty container that you're literally just filling up. And it's up to you. You can either fill it up with sand or garbage, or you can fill it up with lovely roses and, you know, and at the end of the day, you have something beautiful.
But I don't think it would be easy.
No,
anyway,
it really
to raise
isn't.
a child, because as much as you are trying to give him something, like society might give him something else, and he has to, as much as we want to push our children, at the end of the day, like, he would have to make that decision on what he will be at the end of the day. Single mom, no single mom.
And then you also forget that it's not just the home, it's the school, it's the grandparents' house, it's the auntie's house. And in all these places, there's a lot of different things that are going on. So, you know, all you can hope for is that what you're doing at home is instilling enough in him to go out there. Like, if he's at his, say, grandparents' house and grandma says something that he's not happy with, he will stand up and say no because mom said this. Or if at school teacher says pink is for girls, he says, but no, I like pink. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can only hope that there's enough, his foundation or rock for him to stand on, to just stand up and voice his own opinion, even though somebody's trying to tell him that 1 + 1 = 2. You know, he'll be able to question that, to say, okay, but why is it equal to 2? And yeah, you try your best, really.
I like the fact that you think me time is important. I love the fact that you went through with your school and you finished and you kind of like achieved.
I don't think I had a choice.
You achieved all the goals that you had, like all the plans kind of that you had before you had him.
Yeah.
And I think that just kind of shows like a strength in character, not just in you, but also in the circle that you have around you, and like the village that you've formed around your son, which is like very important, because at the end of the day, the people who are around you and the people around you and your son are the ones that contribute to shaping a human being. You know, it's not just money, it's not just clothes, it's not just how the child looks, it's also about feeding the child's mind. What knowledge are you imparting in this child, and what kind of person are they going to be? And also for me, as a person that's on the outside looking in, it's nice to like, you know, kind of like get a glimpse of what single momhood is like, I guess. A lot of our perceptions are made when people, it's easy for negative things to stick than it is for positive things. So when you grow up thinking, oh, single moms are trash, they're trash because, you know, they're not worth a lot of things, that's easy for you to grow up thinking than it is that single moms are awesome, single moms are great, they can do anything that they want to do, they're not second-class humans, they're not third-class humans, they're not, you know, all those negative perceptions that our culture tries to impart on us about certain people. So at the end of the day, it's really up to you to, if you want to ask something, I think it's important to ask before you form a judgment. It's important to get to know people before you judge them, and it's also important to think about what your words mean in different ways to different people. And thank you
For
Lweendo,
having me.
for coming and sharing your experiences. Is there anything that you want to like tell anyone watching?
Shout out to the village, you know, you know yourselves, support system. I really wouldn't have done it without them, to be honest. And I think every day it's made a bit easier by them. And I just want to emphasize, like, it's very important if you're raising a child by yourself. It doesn't always have to be family. It can be friends. It's just always very important to get a support system in there to avoid you going a bit, you know, crazy. So yeah, thanks to the village for helping me every day.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Continue the conversation with me, with us online. And let us know what you think of the topic. If you're a single mom, let us know in the comments below how you've been dealing and what your story is, because I think I like to listen to people's stories because it gives you an understanding of who they are, where they're coming from, and possibly where they're going. So thank you guys so much for getting to the end of this video. Subscribe and don't forget to use the hashtag so we can find you easily, and see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.